what we have here are the necessary tools and materials required to construct an Enfield paper cartridge, as was used with the pattern 1853 Enfield rifled musket. We have the powder cylinder, the inner wrapper, a mandrel. In this case, it's a piece of wood dowling that's 1/2 inch in diameter. We have our lead cast bullet. We have the outer wrapper, which is 100% rag vellum paper that's 3 thou thick, a sharp knife, a piece of string and a handle in order to choke the cartridge, a rather large pair of scissors, some tape, a glue stick to help us bind and construct the powder cylinder, and a piece of string to choke the cartridge with at the end of the assembly. Our first step is to construct the powder cylinder. This is done with a piece of cardstock that's cut from a standard manila folder that measures 2 inches by 4 3/4. Simply take your mandrel, which is 1/2 inch in diameter, and start the paper rolling around it. Apply a slight amount of glue, which will later hold and bind the powder cylinder and keep its shape after repeated use. Roll it tightly and ensure that the ends here and here are flush. Once that's done, simply secure it with a piece of tape. The next step is to wrap the inner wrapper around the powder cylinder. The inner wrapper is constructed of a piece of wax paper which is 2.5 by 3 inches, rolling along the 3-inch axis. With the rolled and glued powder cylinder at the end of the mandrel, simply roll the wax paper tightly around the existing powder cylinder and secure with a piece of tape. Next, with the end, simply pinch and twist the powder cylinder, thereby sealing the end of the wax paper. Then, with a standard bullet, simply nose it in to create a cavity that will later house the nose of the bullet once the cartridge is assembled. Once this step is done, secure the top edge of the inner wrapper to the powder cylinder in this position here with another piece of tape. And what this does is now creates a reusable and robust powder cylinder that should be good for up to 25 to 35 uses. Now we move on to the actual assembly of the main parts of the cartridge. We have our outer wrapper here, cut from a piece of 3/1000th thick rag vellum paper. It was cut out with a template, which is just cut out of some tin. The dimensions for all these papers, in fact, will be included at the end of the video, but the outer wrapper measures 5 inches in height, 4 inches across the bottom, 3 inches across the top, and what I've done is cut the corner in this location here to correspond to the same angle of the outer edge. That way we avoid unnecessarily doubling up the thickness of paper, and we have a uniform thickness all the way around the assembled cartridge. The next part is simply to score and cut the paper with your sharp knife in the position as indicated here by the pencil marks that I've drawn on the outer wrapper. These are of course present on all Enfield cartridges and aid in the outer wrapper removing itself from the bullet once it's fired. With the 3 cuts done, you can see that the paper has, in the usual position, those 3 cut marks here. Our next step is to take our mandrel and place the powder cylinder on the end of it, orienting the paper with the cuts to the right. We place the powder cylinder and mandrel on the left of the paper. Then, with our lead cast bullet, nose in to the powder cylinder, and with the lower edge of the bullet corresponding to the lower part of the 3 cuts, we simply roll the cartridge tightly around the parts. Now, I found that in order to get the paper tightly around the bullet requires a little bit of ratcheting with the fingers to smooth the paper and to take up any slack. 2 or 3 times around in this fashion is usually sufficient. Once that's done, holding it with your finger, simply apply a piece of tape to hold it all together while we move on to the next step.